Most of us think more is always better. More sweat, more intensity, more discipline. We've been told that pushing ourselves harder is the secret to longevity. But what if I told you that some of the very exercises you're doing in the name of health are actually speeding up the aging process? Not just in your muscles, but in your cells, your joints, and even your brain. I've seen people in their 50s and 60s who train like they're 25, lifting heavy every day, running to exhaustion, grinding through pain because they believe they're building resilience. What they're really building is inflammation. Chronic, silent inflammation that erodes tissue, disrupts hormones, and accelerates biological aging. The first kind of exercise to stop is the one that leaves you wrecked. The no pain, no gain routine that floods your body with cortisol and deprives you of recovery. The second is repetitive high-impact motion, miles of pavement pounding that wears down cartilage and shortens your stride over time. The third is the obsession with training every single day, never resting, never allowing the body's natural repair systems to do what they're meant to do. When you deny rest, you deny regeneration. Longevity is not built in the gym. It's built in the spaces between workouts, in sleep, in stillness, in balance. Our brains are wired for rhythm, stress and release, effort and reward, exertion and recovery. When we only push, we confuse that rhythm. We bathe our bodies in dopamine and cortisol until they no longer respond the way they should. The truth is that aging gracefully isn't about doing more. It's about doing wisely. Walk more, lift moderately, move with purpose, and honor the body's whispers before they become screams. The goal isn't to beat time. The goal is to partner with it. So if you care about staying strong at 70, 80, and beyond, stop chasing exhaustion as a badge of honor, trade punishment for presence. Train to live longer, not just harder. Your future self will thank you, not for the miles you ran, but for the wisdom you finally embraced. Discipline without recovery isn't strength. It's self-destruction disguised as dedication. We live in a world that worships effort. We glorify hustle, sacrifice, and the constant grind. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that if we're not exhausted, we're not working hard enough, that if we take a rest day, we're falling behind. But what we call discipline today often has nothing to do with true strength. It's more like a subtle addiction, an addiction to control, to performance, to the illusion that we can outwork biology. I see it every day. People chasing health but running from balance. They wake before sunrise, train until their joints ache, and eat with precision that borders on punishment. Their commitment is impressive, even admirable. But beneath the surface, their bodies are sending signals. Fatigue that never fully goes away, sleep that doesn't restore, hunger that no longer follows a rhythm. They call it dedication. I call it dysregulation. The human body wasn't designed for constant strain. Every system in us, hormonal, muscular, neurological, is built on balance, stress and release, effort and recovery. When we remove recovery from the equation, the body doesn't adapt. It breaks down. Cortisol remains high. Inflammation smolders quietly, and the nervous system becomes stuck in overdrive. And in that state, even the best exercise can become toxic. What began as a healthy pursuit turns into a slow erosion of vitality. The psychology behind this pattern is fascinating. For many of us, overtraining isn't really about fitness. It's about identity. It's the way we prove we're worthy, disciplined, or in control of something in a world that feels unpredictable. Exercise becomes our drug of choice. Each workout gives us a hit of dopamine, a temporary high of achievement, control, pride. But just like any addiction, the threshold keeps moving. We need more miles, more weight, more time in the gym to feel that same internal reward. And eventually, the pursuit of strength becomes a quiet form of harm. It's no accident that so many high-performing individuals end up depleted, injured, or burned out. They confuse fatigue with progress. They confuse soreness with success. But real strength is not measured by how much we can endure. It's measured by how wisely we can recover. Muscles grow not during the workout, but during the rest that follows. The nervous system recalibrates, not when we push harder, but when we allow stillness. Recovery isn't the opposite of discipline, it's the completion of it. There's a biological truth here that's often ignored. Stress itself isn't the enemy. In fact, small, controlled doses of stress, what we call hormesis, are essential for growth. It's the constant, unrelenting stress without restoration that destroys us. Imagine lighting a match to start a fire. That spark is necessary, but if you keep throwing in fuel without ever letting the flame settle, eventually, the fire consumes everything, including you. When I speak to people who are deep in this pattern of overtraining, they often describe the same feeling. They can't stop, not because they love it, but because they're afraid of what stopping means. They're afraid of silence, of stillness, of the discomfort that comes with rest, and that fear is deeply human. We live in an age that equates movement with meaning. To pause feels like weakness. But in truth, it's the pause that restores meaning to movement. Here's the paradox. The very people who think rest will make them weaker are the ones whose bodies are crying out for it the most. They don't realize that recovery is the bridge between effort and longevity. Without it, everything collapses. Hormones, joints, motivation, even joy. It's why so many lifelong athletes wake up one day and say, "I don't love it anymore." Their dopamine systems are exhausted. The pleasure is gone because the body and brain have stopped responding. If you want to be strong at 70, at 80 and beyond, the secret isn't to keep pushing, it's to start listening. True strength is not about how hard you can go, it's about how intelligently you can rest. It's about knowing when to stop, when to breathe, when to trust that stepping back isn't losing progress, it's securing it. Discipline is beautiful when it's in harmony with recovery. Together, they create resilience. A body that heals, a mind that endures, and a spirit that still finds joy in motion. Without recovery, discipline becomes distorted. It turns into obsession, control, punishment. You might look strong on the outside, but inside your systems are crumbling under the weight of your own expectations. So maybe it's time to redefine strength, not as the ability to do more, but as the wisdom to know when enough is enough. Not as the capacity to endure pain, but as the courage to rest without guilt. Because the body is not a machine, it's a living, breathing organism that thrives on rhythm, tension and release, effort and ease, push and pause. The irony is that when you give yourself permission to rest, you don't lose your edge, you sharpen it, your muscles recover faster, your mood stabilizes, your focus deepens, and your body begins to trust you again. That trust is what keeps you alive longer, stronger, calmer. Discipline without recovery isn't strength, it's the slow, quiet art of breaking yourself in the name of improvement. But discipline with recovery, that's mastery. That's what allows you to grow old with power, presence, and peace. Your body doesn't age because of time. It ages because you refuse to listen when it whispers. Aging is not just a biological process. It's a conversation, one your body has been trying to start with you for years. The stiffness in your knees, the fatigue in your mornings, the restless sleep, the dull ache that appears for no reason. These aren't punishments of time. They're messages, quiet, consistent, compassionate signals asking for your attention. The tragedy is that most of us only begin to listen when those whispers turn into screams. We live in a culture that rewards ignoring discomfort. We push through pain, drink coffee instead of resting, lift heavier instead of stretching, and call it strength. We glorify the idea of mind over matter, as if the body is something to be conquered rather than cared for. But every time we override the body's signals, we train ourselves to disconnect from its wisdom. And that disconnection, not time, is what truly ages us. Every organ in your body, from your heart to your skin, is designed for renewal. Cells are constantly regenerating. Tissues heal, the brain rewires. The body is not built to decay quickly. It's built to repair, provided we give it the space and the stillness it needs. But when we drown our bodies in overwork, overstimulation, and stress, that self-repair system starts to fail. Aging accelerates not because the clock is cruel, but because the body is unheard. Think about it. The earliest signs of imbalance are rarely catastrophic. They're gentle. A missed night of deep sleep, a loss of flexibility, a sense of heaviness that follows you through the day. The body begins softly, almost kindly, hoping you'll pause. But when you don't, it raises its voice. Fatigue becomes exhaustion. A twinge becomes inflammation. Anxiety becomes burnout. What could have been a quiet course correction becomes a full-blown collapse. Listening to your body isn't weakness, it's intelligence, it's awareness. When your body whispers, "I'm tired," it's not sabotaging your goals, it's trying to preserve them. When it says, "I need movement," it's asking to stay alive inside of you. When it craves stillness, it's not being lazy. It's recalibrating your nervous system. Your body is always speaking in sensations: tension, hunger, sleepiness, pain. These sensations are the language of your biology, the way your internal systems communicate balance or imbalance. But we've replaced that inner conversation with noise, literal and digital noise. We fill silence with screens. We mask fatigue with caffeine. We drown pain with pills. And then we wonder why aging feels like an enemy instead of a natural evolution. The more disconnected we become from our own internal signals, the faster we deteriorate, because the body, ignored for too long, learns to protect itself the only way it knows how, by shutting down parts of its vitality to survive. It's not that time suddenly steals youth, it's that neglect slowly drains it. Aging is not a punishment, it's feedback. When you treat your body as an ally, time becomes a companion. When you treat it as a machine, time becomes a rival. The difference lies in listening. Every moment of awareness, every time you pause before pushing too far, sends a signal to your brain: "I'm safe." And when the brain believes you're safe, it activates healing. It lowers stress hormones, restores immune balance, enhances repair. Longevity, at its core, is not built in supplements or in perfect diets. It's built in the ongoing dialogue between your body's signals and your willingness to hear them. I've seen people in their 70s who move with more grace than people half their age. They don't force their bodies into submission. They collaborate with them. They rest when they need to. They stretch when they feel stiffness. They eat with intuition rather than fear. They've made peace with time because they've learned to listen to its messenger, the body. The paradox is that most of us fear what listening might reveal. We're afraid to slow down because we think we'll fall behind. We're afraid to rest because we mistake stillness for weakness. But the truth is that listening doesn't make you fragile. It makes you resilient. When you learn to catch the whispers early, you prevent the breakdowns later. You give your body a chance to heal before it has to scream for help. Listening is an act of love, not indulgence, but respect. It's saying to yourself, "I want to live long enough to feel alive." Because real longevity isn't about the number of years you have left. It's about the quality of attention you give to the years you have now. So the next time your body sends you a whisper, a subtle ache, a restless mind, a sudden craving for stillness, don't ignore it. Don't drown it out with more noise or more motion. Pause. Ask what it's trying to say. Maybe it's fatigue. Maybe it's imbalance. Maybe it's wisdom disguised as discomfort. When you start listening, you'll notice something remarkable. Your body begins to trust you again. It softens, it recovers faster, it holds energy longer, it stops fighting you and starts working with you. And that's when time becomes irrelevant. Because the body that feels heard heals, the body that feels ignored ages. You don't need to fight time. You just need to stop fighting yourself. Longevity begins the moment you stop silencing your body's whispers and start treating them as the sacred language of life itself. The obsession with doing more has become the new addiction, and it's costing us our longevity. Addiction doesn't always look like drugs or alcohol. Sometimes it looks like productivity, achievement, self-optimization. It wears the mask of ambition, but underneath, it's the same biochemical loop: dopamine, craving, reward, crash. In the modern world, more has become our drug of choice. More work, more workouts, more goals, more noise. And the irony is that in trying to enhance life, we're quietly burning it away. We live in a time when the pause has become the enemy. Stillness feels like failure. We've been conditioned to measure our worth in output, in the number of steps, the hours logged, the accomplishments accumulated. We no longer ask, "How do I feel?" We ask, "What did I do?" The moment we stop doing, a low-level anxiety hums beneath the surface. That anxiety isn't weakness, it's withdrawal, the dopamine crash that follows a lifetime of chasing stimulation. The brain's reward system wasn't designed for constant engagement. It was built for rhythm, effort and rest, pursuit and satisfaction, action and reflection. But the culture of always on has hijacked that rhythm. Every ping, every task, every achievement gives us a hit of dopamine, and the brain learns to expect the next one. Over time, it takes more activity, more stimulation, to feel the same sense of fulfillment. And when we can't slow down, when silence feels unbearable, that's the clearest sign that what we're chasing has turned into something else entirely. In the clinic, I see this pattern play out in every form imaginable. The entrepreneur who can't stop checking emails even on vacation, the athlete who trains through injury because the thought of rest feels like regression, the student who studies until 3 a.m., not because they love learning, but because they're terrified of doing less. On the surface, these people are successful, but inside, their bodies are screaming for balance, elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, anxiety that hums like background static, all symptoms of a system addicted to its own stimulation. What makes this addiction so dangerous is that society celebrates it. We reward the hustle, glorify exhaustion, and call it passion. We confuse rest with laziness, moderation with weakness, and slowing down with failure. It's the only addiction where the more destructive it becomes, the more praise we receive. But the brain doesn't care about praise. It only knows chemicals. And when dopamine floods the system too often, the receptors begin to downregulate. Pleasure loses its sharpness. Motivation dulls. We start doing not because we want to, but because we don't know how to stop. The tragedy is that this constant need for more slowly eats away at the very thing we're chasing. Vitality. Every system in the body pays the price. Chronic stress ages the skin, weakens the immune response, hardens the arteries, and disrupts hormones that regulate sleep and repair. The more we chase stimulation, the less capable the body becomes of renewal. Longevity isn't lost in one dramatic moment. It's lost in the 1,000 tiny choices we make to keep going when our bodies beg us to pause. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that enough is not mediocrity. It's wisdom. The ancient rhythms of life were built around cycles. Day and night, work and rest, feast and fast. Nature has no addiction to progress. It renews itself through pauses, winters, moments of stillness. But humans, driven by the fear of falling behind, try to outpace time itself. We mistake acceleration for evolution, but what we're really doing is aging faster. To unlearn this addiction, we must first face the discomfort of stopping. For many people, the first quiet moment after constant motion feels unbearable. The mind races, the hands twitch, the urge to fill the space becomes overwhelming. That's withdrawal, that's the nervous system, recalibrating after years of overstimulation. But if we can sit with that discomfort long enough, something beautiful happens. We begin to feel again. We start noticing what's real. Hunger, fatigue, joy, calm. We begin to re-inhabit our own bodies. Doing less doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means aligning ambition with biology. It means understanding that the best performance, physical, mental, emotional, arises not from constant doing, but from cycles of recovery. The artist needs silence as much as expression. The athlete needs rest as much as training. The mind needs stillness as much as stimulation. True productivity, true vitality comes from this harmony. If you look at the longest living cultures in the world, none of them are obsessed with doing more. They live by rhythm. Movement is woven naturally into their days, not forced into extremes. They honor rest, connection, community. They don't chase longevity. They create it through balance. Meanwhile, the modern world chases longevity through intensity, supplements, biohacks, overtraining, all in an effort to fix the damage caused by imbalance in the first place. The addiction to more is seductive because it feels noble. It looks like progress. But the cost is subtle. Your nervous system, your sleep, your joy. Longevity isn't found in the constant chase. It's found in the courage to stop. To say, I've done enough for today. To trust that your worth doesn't depend on output. Doing more isn't always better. Sometimes it's just louder. And in that noise, we lose the quiet intelligence of the body, the pulse that tells us when to move and when to rest. When we finally learn to honor that rhythm again, the aging process slows, not because time changes, but because we do. The obsession with doing more has become the new addiction. But recovery, real recovery, begins the moment you realize that your value was never in your effort. It was always in your awareness. Longevity isn't about how much you achieve, it's about how deeply you live, how wisely you rest, and how courageously you choose to stop when your body has already said, enough. Real resilience isn't built through punishment, it's built through balance, patience, and rest. Somewhere along the way, we started confusing pain with progress. We began to believe that if something doesn't hurt, it doesn't help. The culture of self-improvement turned suffering into a badge of honor. The earlier you wake up, the harder you train, the more you sacrifice, the stronger you must be. But what if that's not resilience at all? What if it's depletion dressed as discipline? The human body, the human mind, and even the human spirit were never designed for constant strain. They're designed for adaptation. And adaptation requires recovery. Stress, when applied in healthy doses, teaches the body to grow stronger. But when we cross that invisible line from challenge into punishment, the very systems meant to help us thrive begin to collapse. The hormones that protect us turn toxic. The neurotransmitters that fuel motivation burn out. The body that once responded with strength now responds with resistance. We live in a time when endurance is glorified, but restoration is neglected. We celebrate the person who works through illness, who trains through pain, who never takes a break. Yet the irony is that resilience, true sustainable resilience, is impossible without rest. Every act of strength in nature is cyclical. The ocean crashes, then retreats, the sun burns, then sets. Even the heart, our symbol of endurance, contracts and releases in rhythm. Its power lies not in its force, but in its balance. When we punish ourselves in the name of growth, we send a dangerous message to the body that its limits are the enemy. We override fatigue, suppress emotion, and ignore discomfort as if they're signs of weakness rather than signals of need. But fatigue is not failure. It's feedback. It's the body's way of whispering, "I've done enough for now." The problem isn't that we push ourselves. It's that we never learn when to stop. Resilience isn't about how much pain you can tolerate. It's about how intelligently you respond to it. It's knowing when a challenge is building you and when it's breaking you, and that awareness doesn't come from force. It comes from patience. Patience to rest. Patience to heal. Patience to rebuild slowly instead of burning out quickly. In neuroscience, there's a concept called allostasis. It means achieving stability through change. The body's ability to adapt to stress while maintaining internal balance. The stronger your allostatic system, the more resilient you are. But here's the paradox. The more chronic stress you apply without recovery, the more your allostatic load increases and the less resilient you become. You may look tough on the outside, but inside, your systems are quietly failing. Your heart rate variability drops. Your cortisol rises, your immune function weakens. What looks like grit is often just the early stage of collapse. I've met countless people who define their worth by endurance. They say things like, "I never take a day off," or "I haven't missed a workout in years." On the surface, it sounds impressive. But underneath that discipline often lies fear. The fear of stillness, the fear of slowing down, the fear of what might surface if they stop moving. For them, exhaustion feels safer than introspection, yet the very thing they run from, rest, is what their bodies and minds are begging for. Resilience doesn't mean pushing through every obstacle. It means bending without breaking. It means having the flexibility to adapt, the humility to rest, and the wisdom to recover. When we stop treating our bodies like machines and start treating them like ecosystems, everything changes. Growth becomes gentler, more sustainable, and far more powerful. There's a story our culture doesn't tell often enough, that some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who chose to pause. The ones who said, "I need to step back before I fall apart." That choice is not weakness, it's self-awareness. It's the quiet strength that says, "I value longevity over performance. I value wholeness over image." Patience, too, is a form of strength. We live in a world addicted to speed, but the biology of healing moves slowly. Muscles rebuild over days, not hours. Nerves recover over months. Hormones stabilize over seasons. The mind relearns calmness only after long stretches of stillness. When we rush this process, we don't accelerate recovery. We sabotage it. Real resilience honors time. It knows that progress that lasts is progress that breathes. The deepest form of rest isn't laziness, it's trust. It's trusting that stepping away won't erase your progress. It's trusting that stillness won't make you weaker. It's trusting that your body, when given time, knows how to heal itself. That trust is the foundation of resilience. Without it, we live in constant war with ourselves, always pushing, never listening, always performing, never restoring. Think of the people who live long, balanced lives. They are not the ones who never fall, they are the ones who recover well. They know how to pause without guilt, how to reset without shame. They treat recovery as sacred, not optional. They've learned that the strength to continue is born in the courage to stop. So, real resilience isn't built through punishment. It's not in the hours you grind or the pain you endure. It's in the moments you rest deeply enough to rebuild. It's in the balance between effort and ease, between pushing forward and allowing space for renewal. When we finally learn to honor that balance, we stop breaking ourselves in the pursuit of strength, and we start becoming truly strong. The paradox is simple yet profound. You don't grow stronger by doing more, you grow stronger by recovering better. Resilience is not forged in the noise of constant doing. It's found in the quiet between the breaths, the pause between the efforts, the patience between the trials. That's where healing lives. That's where strength is born. And that's where longevity begins. Longevity isn't about how hard you push your limits, but how wisely you respect them. In a culture obsessed with breaking boundaries, we've mistaken defiance for strength. We celebrate those who go beyond, who never quit, who push through the pain. But the truth is, the people who live long, vibrant lives are rarely the ones who live in constant battle with their bodies. They're the ones who have learned how to listen, who know when to stop, when to slow down, and when to let go. We are taught from a young age that limits are barriers, that they're meant to be conquered, push harder. No excuses, go until you can't. These mantras sound motivational, but beneath their surface lies a dangerous misunderstanding of human biology. Limits aren't signs of weakness, they're signals of balance. They exist not to hold us back, but to protect us from collapse. Every system in the body has a threshold, a point at which stress turns from helpful to harmful, from adaptive to destructive. And yet, modern life pushes us to ignore those thresholds in pursuit of constant performance. We've built a culture where rest feels like failure and pain feels like progress. We glorify the person who never takes a day off, who grinds until midnight, who claims to sleep when they're dead. But here's the irony. That mindset accelerates the very aging we're trying to escape. The body doesn't grow stronger from relentless pressure. It grows stronger from recovery after pressure. Strength isn't built in the moment of strain. It's built in the space that follows. When you refuse to honor that space, you don't become resilient. You become depleted. There's a profound intelligence in the body's limits. When your heart races, when your muscles ache, when your mind fogs, it's not weakness. It's data. It's your body's way of saying, something needs to change. But instead of listening, we often silence those messages with caffeine, distraction, or denial. We push a little further, we ignore the whisper, and in doing so, we trade long-term health for short-term validation. The most dangerous myth in wellness culture is that longevity is earned through intensity. It's earned through alignment. When we respect our limits, we align with the body's natural rhythm, the rhythm that has sustained human life for thousands of years. Every organism in nature has a cycle: stress and release, light and dark, action and rest. Even trees pause in winter to conserve energy for spring. Yet humans, intoxicated by productivity, have forgotten how to pause. We live in a constant summer of doing, and we call that ambition. But endless summer destroys the soil. Science has shown this over and over. Chronic overexertion floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline, hormones that, in small bursts, make us sharper and faster, but in chronic doses, corrode our tissues, suppress immunity, and age our cells prematurely. The line between growth and breakdown is thin, and the only way to stay on the right side of it is through awareness. The willingness to respect the signals our bodies give us. Respecting your limits isn't about giving up. It's about understanding that your body is not a machine. It doesn't operate on willpower alone. It needs rhythm. It needs respect. It needs moments of stillness as much as moments of strain. When we learn to work with our biology instead of against it, something remarkable happens. We age slower, think clearer, sleep deeper, and feel more alive. True longevity is the art of self-awareness. It's the daily practice of asking, what do I need today? Not how much more can I handle? Some days, resilience looks like pushing through, but more often, it looks like stopping in time. It looks like taking a breath before burnout, resting before collapse, adjusting before injury. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. I've met people in their 70s who radiate a kind of quiet strength. They're not obsessed with doing more. They're committed to doing right. They move with intention, not compulsion. They rest without guilt. They know their limits not as barriers, but as boundaries of harmony. And it's that respect, not resistance, that keeps them young. Their longevity isn't a product of relentless drive. It's the fruit of sustainable rhythm. When we push too hard for too long, the body pushes back. It always does. Sometimes through pain, sometimes through fatigue, sometimes through illness. And yet when we learn to listen early, to respond with gentleness instead of punishment, the body rewards us. It begins to trust us again. Healing becomes easier. Energy returns. We stop surviving and start thriving. Limits are not the enemy of growth. They are its guideposts. They tell us where adaptation ends and injury begins. They are the map to sustainable strength. Ignoring them may make you feel powerful today, but it will cost you years tomorrow. Respecting them, on the other hand, teaches you how to live in harmony with time rather than in resistance to it. Longevity isn't about outrunning decay. It's about learning how to dance with it, gracefully, intelligently, without fear. When you respect your limits, you create space for renewal. You give your body permission to do what it was designed to do. Repair, rebuild, and rejuvenate. You stop aging faster than you live. So no, longevity isn't about how hard you push your limits. It's about how deeply you understand them, how gently you honor them, how wisely you allow them to protect you. Because your limits aren't your prison, they're your teachers. And when you finally learn to listen to them, you discover the truth. Your strength was never in how far you could go, but in how well you could return. Somewhere along the way, we began to confuse exhaustion with accomplishment. We started to wear fatigue as a badge of honor, proof that we're serious, disciplined, worthy. In the gym, at work, in life, we chase the burn, the late nights, the long hours, the extra mile. We've been told that the more we do, the better we become. But what if this constant chase is not making us stronger, but weaker? What if our endless pursuit of exhaustion is the very thing breaking our trust with our own bodies? Your body is not a machine, it's a living system, intelligent, responsive, and deeply loyal. For years it has carried you through sleepless nights, emotional storms, and physical strain. It adjusts, compensates, adapts. But even the most resilient system reaches a breaking point, and when that point comes, it doesn't shout, it whispers, it sends subtle signals. Persistent fatigue, tightness that doesn't ease, sleep that doesn't restore. These aren't signs of laziness or failure. They're messages. Your body is saying, I'm trying to protect you. Please slow down. The tragedy is that we've been conditioned to ignore those messages. We respond to fatigue with caffeine, to pain with pills, to burnout with motivation quotes. We call rest weakness and recovery wasted time. Yet it's in recovery, not exhaustion, that growth happens. Muscles don't get stronger when you train them. They get stronger when you rest them. Minds don't become sharper by staying alert. They renew through sleep, silence, and stillness. The science is clear. Chronic stress, whether physical or psychological, floods the body with cortisol and adrenaline, survival hormones designed for short bursts of danger. But when they stay elevated for too long, they begin to erode the very systems they were meant to protect. The immune system falters, the gut weakens, the brain's dopamine pathways become dull, leaving us anxious, restless, and unsatisfied. The more we chase exhaustion, the more disconnected we become from the rhythm that sustains us, and that rhythm, the cycle of effort and recovery, is sacred. Every living organism follows it. Your heart contracts, then releases. Your lungs inhale, then exhale. Even the tides of the ocean know when to rise and when to fall. When we ignore this rhythm, we go against the very biology that keeps us alive. The result isn't strength, it's imbalance. And imbalance over time becomes disease. When you finally stop chasing exhaustion, something profound happens. The noise quiets. The nervous system, once locked in fight or flight, begins to soften. Sleep deepens. Digestion improves. Mood stabilizes. Your body starts to trust you again. It no longer braces for the next wave of punishment. It begins to heal. The energy you used to force from caffeine or adrenaline starts to emerge naturally. You wake up rested, not just relieved that the night is over. Trust. That's the word most of us forget when we talk about health. Your body is always listening to how you treat it. If you constantly override its signals, it learns that it cannot rely on you. It adapts by shutting down non-essential systems, hormonal balance, immune strength, emotional regulation, all sacrificed for survival. But when you listen, when you honor recovery, you rebuild that trust The body begins to open again. It gives you more because it knows you won't abuse it. Recovery is not just rest. It's intentional repair. It's the food you eat slowly instead of on the run. It's the sleep you protect instead of sacrifice. It's the walk you take without counting steps. It's silence, breath, and stillness. The antidotes to a culture addicted to doing. When you recover well, you train the body to feel safe, and only in safety can it grow. Many of us fear slowing down because we think we'll lose progress. But the paradox is that recovery accelerates progress. Athletes who prioritize recovery outperform those who don't. Thinkers who rest their minds solve problems faster. Even emotional resilience, the ability to stay calm in chaos, depends on recovery. When you honor your body's need for rhythm, you don't lose time, you gain years. There is also something deeply spiritual about rest. When you stop chasing exhaustion, you stop trying to prove your worth through suffering, you begin to understand that you are not valuable because of how much you can endure, but because of how wisely you can sustain yourself. You shift from survival mode to creation mode, from pushing to presence. That's where vitality lives. I've met people who have lived through decades of overwork, who believed rest was indulgence, when they finally allowed themselves to slow down, to take a day off, to stretch without rushing, to breathe deeply. They described something astonishing: peace, not laziness, not emptiness, but a kind of peace they hadn't felt in years. Their bodies softened, their thoughts cleared. They began to feel at home again inside themselves. That's what happens when the body begins to trust you again. We talk a lot about longevity, but real longevity isn't just about years. It's about aliveness. It's about having energy that feels clean, steady, and joyful. You can't achieve that by running on empty. You achieve it by aligning your actions with your biology, by remembering that the pause is not the opposite of progress. It is the foundation of it. So the next time your body asks for rest, don't see it as an obstacle. See it as communication. When you honor recovery, you're not giving up. You're tuning in. You're saying, I hear you. I'm with you. And in that moment, your body exhales. It stops defending. It begins to trust again. And that trust, that quiet alliance between you and your body, is the beginning of true, lasting strength.